All right, welcome. Today we're digging into a really critical security challenge, one that's coming from a completely new kind of workforce, autonomous AI agents. You see, these aren't just tools anymore. They're becoming our new digital colleagues. And managing them? Well, that's going to require a whole new security playbook. So let's dive right in.
So let's start with a big question, one that really gets to the heart of this. How do you manage an employee you can't even see? Think about it. We are building a workforce that operates at machine speed, makes its own decisions, and exists only as code. And that raises some really fundamental questions, right? Like, how do we give them access? How do we make sure they're doing the right job? And maybe most importantly, how do we hold them accountable when something goes wrong?
Okay, first things first, let's be super clear on what we're even talking about here. Agentic AI. It's a huge leap beyond just simple scripts or automation. We're talking about autonomous entities that can actually plan, reason, and carry out complex, multi-step tasks, all while adapting to new info on the fly without a human needing to guide every single step. It's a game changer.
And this evolution, wow, it is happening incredibly fast. We started with these simple agents, right? The ones a human had to trigger to do one single task. Now we have autonomous agents that can collaborate with each other. But the real destination, the end game here, is what you could call the digital employee, a true team member that learns, adapts, and can even create its own tools. Wild, right?
So this new digital workforce, it creates a massive, massive problem for the security systems we all rely on today. Why? Because those systems were built for humans. They're just not prepared for the sheer speed, the scale, and the autonomy of agentic AI. It's like trying to use a horse and buggy rulebook for a fleet of self-driving cars. Get this, 148 times. That's not a typo. According to benchmarks from Okta, that's how many more authentication requests an AI workload can make per hour compared to a human. Just think about that for a second. Our current security systems were never ever designed to handle that kind of volume, that kind of velocity. They just break.
So here's the core mismatch, right? Our old security, the human-centric stuff, it's all static and session-based. We assign someone a role, give them pretty broad access, and then we just kind of trust them for a few hours. But agentic AI, it needs the exact opposite. It needs dynamic, super fine-grained permissions that might only last for a few seconds, and every single action needs to be verified in real time. And look, even our most robust protocols, things you probably heard of like OAuth 2.1, they just fall short here. They don't have a real concept of an agent's identity, especially when one agent creates or spawns another. Their security tokens are basically like bearer bonds. Whoever holds the piece of paper owns the money. Well, here, whoever holds the token has the access. That's a huge risk for impersonation. And on top of that, the permissions are just way too broad and static for an AI that needs to adapt its job from one moment to the next.
All of this leads to a classic and frankly dangerous security flaw. It's called the confused deputy problem. Just imagine this. You have an AI agent, and it's running on a system that has really high-level permissions. Now, what if that agent gets a malicious instruction from the outside? It could get tricked into using the system's broad authority to do something really bad, something the agent itself isn't supposed to do. The system gets confused because it can't tell the difference between the agent's limited job and its own powerful permissions.
So, this is the crucial point. We can't just tweak the old systems. This is not about getting a better key for the old lock. It's about designing a fundamentally new kind of ID card, one that's purpose-built from the ground up for this new digital workforce.
The solution really is to completely redefine what an identity even is for an AI agent. We have to move way beyond simple API keys. We need to give every single agent something much, much richer, a verifiable, cryptographically secure digital ID. This becomes the bedrock, the foundation for all trust and all access going forward.
Now, there are two core technologies that make this new ID possible. First, you've got Decentralized Identifiers, or DIDs. The easiest way to think of this is like a permanent, unforgeable social security number for the agent, but one that the agent itself actually controls. Then you have Verifiable Credentials, or VCs. These are like tamper-proof digital badges. They prove specific things about the agent. Yes, you have permission to do X, or yes, you're certified for this task, and they're issued by a source we trust.
So when you combine these two things, an agent ID becomes way less like a simple username and password, and much more like a detailed, verifiable digital resume. You've got the core DID, which is like the name at the top of the resume.
But then it's loaded with all these other attributes: who created it, what its job is, and critically, that collection of VCs, which are like signed, verifiable references for all its specific skills, roles, and permissions. You can check everything. Okay, so how does this new kind of identity actually build into a complete security framework? Well, with these powerful new IDs, we can finally construct an architecture that's designed from the ground up for this new world of autonomous agents.
This whole framework really rests on 4 key pillars. First up, a zero-trust architecture. The motto here is simple: never trust, always verify. Every single action requires real-time verification. Second is decentralized identity, using those DIDs and VCs we just talked about. Third, you've got dynamic access control. This just means policies are based on real-time context, not old static roles. And fourth, continuous monitoring. We're constantly tracking agent behavior to detect any anomalies and assess risk.
And at the absolute core of all this is that principle of zero trust. It really boils down to 3 things. 1, explicit verification for everything. 2, least privileged access, meaning we grant the absolute bare minimum access needed for any given task and nothing more. And 3, we assume breach. We design our systems assuming a breach is going to happen, which forces us to build in ways to contain it rapidly.
All right, so why does all of this matter? What's the big deal? What does this new security model actually unlock for the future of business and, technology in general?
Here's the takeaway. This approach, it isn't just a simple update. It's a completely new foundation, purpose-built for this new agentic era. By redefining agent identity, we create true, fine-grained accountability. Every single action can be traced back to a specific agent and the exact credentials it used at that exact moment. And that is the foundation of trust we absolutely need if we're going to integrate AI deeply and, more importantly, responsibly into our most critical systems.
And we'll end on this final thought. This framework, it gives us the technical tools for accountability. It lets us see exactly which agent did what and with what permissions. But it also brings up a much bigger, almost philosophical question for all of us to think about. If an AI agent really is a digital employee, who's responsible when it breaks the rules?